Grak-Thur's calloused hands gripped the controls of his ramshackle dropship, the smell of diesel and sweat thick in the air. The patchwork hull rattled as they entered the atmosphere of the human colony world, XB-2847. To Grak-Thur, it was just another nameless rock, ripe for pillaging. Ready the boarding claws, he bellowed over the roar of the engines. His fellow Grappans, short and stout with their characteristic crab-like shells, growled in anticipation. This was what they lived for, the thrill of the raid, the promise of plunder. As they broke through the cloud cover, Grak-Thur's beady eyes widened at the sight below. The human settlement sprawled across the landscape, its gleaming structures a stark contrast to the rugged, improvised technology of the Grappans. For a moment, he felt a twinge of something. Not quite envy, not quite awe. He shook it off. Grappans didn't waste time on such foolish emotions. "Look at these soft shells," sneered his second in command, Vrok-Nar. "They don't even have proper defenses." It was true. As the dropships descended, there was no anti-aircraft fire, no scrambling of fighters. The humans seemed completely unprepared for an attack from the skies. The first wave of Grappan raiders hit the ground running, their diesel-powered exosuits clanking and wheezing. Grak-Thur led the charge, his vibro axe humming ominously. "Take everything that isn't bolted down," he roared. "And if it is bolted down, take it anyway." The humans scattered before them, their screams of terror music to Grappan ears. A few security forces tried to mount a resistance, but their energy weapons seemed to barely scratch the Grappan's armored shells. Grak-Thur smashed through the doors of what appeared to be a research facility. Inside, humans in white coats cowered behind desks and equipment. He grinned, baring razor-sharp teeth. "Pack it up, boys. This looks valuable." As his team ransacked the lab, Grak-Thur noticed one of the humans frantically working at a console. With a grunt, he lumbered over and brought his axe down, cleaving the machine in two. The human stumbled back, eyes wide with fear. "What were you doing?" Soft-skinned Grak-Thur growled. The human scientist, to his surprise, met his gaze defiantly. Sending a message, she spat. "You have no idea what you've just started." Grak-Thur laughed, a harsh, grating sound. "Started? We're about to finish, weakling. Your world is ours now." As the raiding party regrouped, their ships laden with plunder, Grak-Thur couldn't shake the humans' words from his mind. They'd raided countless worlds before, and none had ever hinted at retaliation. This was the way of things Grappans took, others lost. Simple. Looking back at the burning settlement as their ships lifted off, Grak-Thur felt a flicker of unease. The raid had been almost too easy. Where was the challenge, the glory in this? Little did he know, as the Grappan fleet jumped away with their ill-gotten gains, that this raid was different. This time they had awoken a sleeping giant. Grak-Thur slouched in his command chair aboard the Grappan raider ship Ironbiter, his thick fingers drumming impatiently on the armrest. It had been 3 lunar cycles since their triumphant raid on the human colony, and the initial euphoria was wearing thin. "Another raid," Vrok-Nar suggested, noticing his commander's restlessness. Grak-Thur grunted. "Too soon. We need to let the fear settle, make them soft again." The bridge's crude intercom crackled to life. "Commander. Unidentified ships approaching from Sector 7. Grak-Thur's eyes narrowed. "Impossible. No one knows our hunting grounds." He lumbered to the view screen, its flickering image showing a fleet of sleek, silver vessels cutting through space with unnerving precision. Grak-Thur's jaw dropped as he recognized the emblem on their hulls, the same insignia they'd seen on the human colony. "Bah. The soft-skins want their trinkets back," he laughed, but the sound was hollow. Something felt different. The human ships didn't halt at the edge of the system as most civilizations did when facing Grappan raiders. They didn't attempt communication or plead for the return of their stolen goods. Instead, they accelerated, weapons systems flaring to life. Evasive maneuvers, Grak-Thur bellowed, but it was too late. The first salvo caught them completely off guard. Energy beams sliced through the Grappan fleet's patchwork defenses like they weren't even there. Ships that had weathered countless raids and brutal space battles crumpled under the onslaught. "Return fire," Grak-Kathir roared, slamming his fist on the weapons console. The Ironbiter's guns coughed to life, spitting streams of superheated plasma at the human vessels. But where Grappin weapons had easily overwhelmed the colony's defenses, they seemed to barely scratch the hulls of these warships. As the battle raged, Grak-Kathir felt something he'd never experienced before: genuine fear. This wasn't a raid or a skirmish. This was something else entirely. Commander Vroknar's voice was uncharacteristically quiet. "They're not stopping. They're not even slowing down." Grak-Kathir watched in disbelief as the human fleet methodically tore through their defensive lines. Ship after Grappin ship winked out of existence, reduced to expanding clouds of debris. "Fall back," he finally ordered, his pride warring with his survival instinct. "Return to the homeworlds." As the remnants of the once mighty raiding fleet limped away, Grak-Kathir's comm unit crackled. A human face appeared on the screen, stern and unyielding. "This is Admiral Chambers of the United Earth Fleet," the human said, his voice cold. "Your unprovoked attack on our colony world will not go unanswered. We hereby declare war on the Grappin Confederacy. Prepare yourselves." The transmission cut off, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. "War," Vroknar whispered, confusion evident in his gravelly voice. "What does that mean?" Grak-Kathir shook his head, the human scientist's words from the raid echoing in his mind. "I don't know," he admitted, "but I have a feeling we're about to find out." As the battered Ironbiter limped towards home, Grak-Kathir couldn't shake the feeling that everything had changed. The humans weren't content with a simple counter-raid. They wanted more. They wanted more. And for the first time in his life, Grak-Kathir wondered if the Grappins had finally bitten off more than they could chew. The once proud bridge of the Utexka Morna, pride of the Grappin fleet, now reeked of desperation and diesel fumes. Grak-Kathir stood at the viewport, his armored shell pockmarked with scars from countless battles. The past cycles had been a blur of constant combat, retreat, and fragile regrouping. "Status report," he growled, not turning from the sight of the massive human blockade that stretched across the starscape. Vroknar, now his chief tactician, limped forward. "It's not good, Commander. The humans have us boxed in. Our outer colonies have fallen. This war they wage, it never stops." Grak-Kathir's fists clenched. The word still felt foreign on his tongue. War. Not a raid, not a battle, but a relentless, grinding campaign that had pushed the Grappins to the brink. "What of the King's plan?" he asked, finally facing his battered crew. Vroknar's eyes glinted with a mix of fear and excitement. "The entire remaining fleet is assembled, Commander. Every ship we could cobble together, every warrior who can stand. This is it, our final push to break their blockade." Grak-Kathir nodded grimly. He was a raider, trained for quick strikes and plunder. This prolonged conflict had taken its toll, not just on their numbers, but on their very spirit. The humans fought with a tenacity and coordination the Grappins had never encountered before. "All hands, battle stations," he roared, and the bridge erupted into frenzied activity. Grak-Kathir strapped himself into the command chair, useless as he felt. His expertise was ground combat, not void warfare. But here he was, about to participate in the largest space battle in Grappin history. The remnants of the Grappin Armada surged forward, a hodgepodge fleet of battleships, converted freighters, and even civilian vessels pressed into military service. Their plan was simple: concentrate all firepower on a single point in the human line, punch through, and scatter to rebuild their forces. As they closed with the human fleet, Grak-Kathir felt a flutter of hope. The sheer number of Grappin ships was staggering, surely enough to overwhelm even the technologically superior humans. That hope was short-lived. The human ships moved with impossible precision, their formation shifting to meet the Grappin charge head-on. Energy weapons lanced out, decimating the front lines of the Grappin attack. "Press forward," Grak-Kathir bellowed into the fleet-wide comm. "For the glory of the Grappin Confederacy." The space between the fleets became a maelstrom of weapons fire, explosions, and debris. Grappin ships, relying on their overwhelming numbers, rammed into human vessels, trying to break their lines through sheer brute force. For a moment, it seemed to be working. A gap appeared in the human formation, and Grappen ships poured through. Then the trap was sprung. Hidden human reinforcements dropped out of faster-than-light travel, catching the Grappen fleet in a devastating crossfire. Ships that had weathered the initial assault now found themselves torn apart from multiple angles. "It's a slaughter," Vroknar whispered, his usual bravado gone. Grak-K-Thur watched helplessly as the battle unfolded on the tactical displays. The Grappen fleet, once so mighty, was being systematically dismantled. He had led raids, fought in skirmishes, but nothing had prepared him for the scale and horror of this. As the Utexka Morna shuddered under repeated impacts, alarms blaring throughout the ship, Grak-K-Thur realized a terrible truth. The humans hadn't just brought superior technology and tactics to this war. They had brought an understanding of conflict on a scale the Grappens had never imagined. "All ships, fall back to defensive positions around the homeworld," he ordered, his voice hollow. The remnants of the fleet limped away from the battlefield, leaving behind a graveyard of shattered ships and broken dreams. As they retreated, a transmission cut through the chaos. Admiral Chambers's face appeared on the main screen, his expression grim but determined. "Commander Grak-K-Thur," the human said, "your attack has failed. Surrender now, and we can end this without further bloodshed." Grak-K-Thur stared at the human, feeling the weight of his entire species' future on his shoulders. He opened his mouth to reply, but before he could, the transmission was cut off. The Grappen King's voice, usually so confident and booming, now sounded tired and defeated. "All ships maintain positions. We need time to consider our options." As the battered Utexka Morna took up a defensive orbit around their homeworld, Grak-K-Thur couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't just the end of a battle. It was the end of everything the Grappens had ever known. The bridge of the Utexka Morna had fallen silent, save for the occasional spark from damaged consoles and the labored breathing of its battered crew. Grak-K-Thur stood at the viewport, watching as the human fleet encircled their homeworld. The Grappen King's voice crackled over the comms once more. We refuse their terms," the king announced, his voice a mixture of fear and stubborn pride. "Grappens do not surrender." The transmission cut off abruptly, replaced by the stern visage of Admiral Chambers. "Very well," the human said, his eyes hard. "Prepare to be boarded." Grak-K-Thur's blood ran cold. This was at the moment when all his years of raiding and ground combat would finally come into play. "All hands, prepare for boarders," he roared, hefting his vibro axe. "Show these humans what it means to face a Grappen in close quarters." No sooner had the words left his mouth than the ship shuddered violently. Warning klaxons blared as multiple hull breaches were detected across the Utexka Morna. By the sacred city, Vroknar gasped, pointing at the tactical display. They're using their own ships as battering rams." Grak-K-Thur watched in disbelief as human boarding craft punched through the Utexka Morna's hull, creating their own entry points. At the same time, more conventional boarding parties breached through airlocks and existing battle damage. "Defend the ship," Grak-K-Thur bellowed, leading a charge towards the nearest breach point. The corridors of the Utexka Morna became a battleground, filled with the clash of metal on metal and the sharp reports of human weaponry. For a moment, Grak-K-Thur felt a surge of confidence. This was what Grappens were built for close-quarters combat, where their natural armor and brute strength could shine. He swung his vibro axe in wide arcs, the humming blade cleaving through the air. But as the battle wore on, that confidence began to waver. The humans moved with a coordinated precision that was terrifying to behold. Where Grappens relied on individual prowess and brute force, the humans fought as a single, cohesive unit. A flash of movement caught Grak-K-Thur's eye. A human soldier, encased in sleek power armor, vaulted over a makeshift barricade. The Grappen commander swung his axe, but the human was faster, ducking under the blow and delivering a series of quick, precision strikes that found the weak points in Grak-K-Thur's natural armor. Pain flared through his body, and Grak-K-Thur stumbled back. All around him, he could see his fellow Grappens falling to similar tactics. The humans weren't just matching Grappen's strength, they were outmaneuvering them at every turn. "All back," he ordered, realizing the futility of their stand, regroup at the central hub. As they retreated, Grak-Cake-Thur caught glimpses of the battle raging throughout the ship. Humans were using advanced breaching charges to create new paths, outflanking Grappen defenders. Their weapons, a mix of energy beams and hypervelocity projectiles, were finding gaps in Grappen armor that he didn't even know existed. By the time they reached the central hub, it was clear that the battle was lost. Grappen defenders were being systematically overwhelmed across the ship. The humans' tactical acumen, combined with their advanced technology, was simply too much to overcome. A deafening explosion rocked the ship, and the main doors to the hub blew inward. Through the smoke strode a towering figure, a human in what appeared to be command armor, flanked by a squad of elite troops. Commander Grak-Cake-Thur, the human's amplified voice boomed. "In the name of the United Earth Government, I order you to stand down. This ship is now under our control." Grak-Cake-Thur looked around at his battered, exhausted crew. They had fought with all the ferocity and courage that had made the Grappens feared across the galaxy. But it hadn't been enough. Not against this enemy. Not against this way of war. With a heavy heart, Grak-Cake-Thur let his vibro axe clatter to the deck. We yield," he growled, the words tasting like ash in his mouth. As human soldiers moved in to secure the Grappen survivors, Grak-Cake-Thur couldn't help but marvel at the efficiency of their operation. This wasn't just a victory, it was a demonstration of a level of warfare that the Grappens had never imagined possible. For the first time in his life, Grak-Cake-Thur felt truly and utterly defeated, and as he was led away with the other prisoners. The hangar bay of the Utexka Morna, once a proud symbol of Grappen military might, now served as a makeshift holding area for the captured crew. Grak-Cake-Thur sat on the cold metal floor, his body aching from wounds both physical and psychological. Around him, his fellow Grappens huddled in dejected silence, their usual bravado shattered by the overwhelming defeat they had just suffered. Human soldiers patrolled the perimeter, their advanced armor and weapons a constant reminder of the technological gap between the two species. Grak-Cake-Thur couldn't help but marvel at their discipline. Even in victory, they remained vigilant and professional. A commotion near the hangar entrance drew his attention. A group of humans entered, escorting a familiar figure. Grak-Cake-Thur's eyes widened as he recognized the Grappen king, his regal armor dented and scorched. "Attention! Prisoners," a human voice boomed through the hangar. Admiral Chambers strode in, his presence commanding instant respect, even from the defeated Grappens. "Your leader has been brought here to address you." The Grappen king stepped forward, his usual confident swagger replaced by a hesitant gait. He looked out over his captured subjects, and Grak-Cake-Thur could see the weight of responsibility heavy on his shoulders. "My people," the king began, his voice uncharacteristically subdued. "We have faced many foes in our long history of raiding and conquest, but never have we encountered an adversary like the humans." A murmur ran through the assembled Grappens. Grak-Cake-Thur leaned forward, scarcely believing what he was hearing. The king continued, "Their concept of war is beyond anything we have ever known. It is not a simple raid or battle, but a sustained campaign that has pushed us to the very brink of extinction." He paused, seeming to struggle with his next words. "And so, for the first time in our history, I have agreed to surrender." The hangar erupted in a cacophony of shocked exclamations and angry protests. Grak-Cake-Thur remained silent, his mind reeling from the implications. Admiral Chambers stepped forward, raising a hand for silence. "Your surrender has been accepted," he stated firmly. "But understand this, the galaxy will no longer tolerate the Grappen Confederacy's predatory raiding. You have a choice to make." The human admiral's gaze swept across the assembled Grappens. "You can choose to keep your weapons and join the human empire as a protectorate, bound by our laws and regulations. Or, you can choose independence, but you will be stripped of all offensive capabilities and monitored to ensure you never again pose a threat to galactic peace." The king's shoulders slumped, the choice clearly tearing him apart. "If we choose independence," he asked, his voice barely above a whisper, "how could I ever return home and tell our people they can never raid again?" Grak-Cake-Thur watched as realization dawned on the faces of his fellow Grappens. Their entire society, their way of life, had been built on the premise of raiding and pillaging. To give that up would be to lose their very identity. The king straightened, seeming to come to a decision. "We will join your empire," he declared, his voice regaining some of its former strength. "The Grappans will adapt. We must, if we are to survive in this new galaxy you have shown us." Admiral Chambers nodded solemnly. "A wise choice. We will begin the integration process immediately." As the humans began organizing the prisoners for transfer, Grak-Kai-Thur found himself approached by a young human officer. "Commander Grak-Kai-Thur," the human asked. At Grak-Kai-Thur's nod, he continued, "I've been assigned to debrief you. We're particularly interested in your perspective on this conflict." Grak-Kai-Thur looked at the human, seeing not an enemy now, but a member of a species that had fundamentally changed the course of Grappan history. "What do you want to know?" he asked. The human's next question caught him off guard. "In your own words, what did you learn from this war?" Grak-Kai-Thur was silent for a long moment, considering. Finally he spoke, his gravelly voice filled with a newfound respect, and not a little fear. "You humans, you taught us what war truly is, and why we should never, ever war with you again." To Grak-Thur's surprise, the human officer nodded in understanding, a hint of sadness in his eyes. "That's a lesson we had to learn the hard way ourselves, long ago," he said softly. "Welcome to the wider galaxy, Commander. There's much we can learn from each other." As Grak-Kai-Thur was led away to begin his new life as a citizen of the human empire, he couldn't shake the feeling that this defeat, painful as it was, might just be the beginning of something greater for his people. The conference room aboard the human flagship Pax Tirana hummed with tension. On one side of the long table sat the Grappan delegation, led by their king and flanked by Grak-Kai-Thur. Across from them, Admiral Chambers and his staff represented the human empire. The peace talks had been ongoing for days, each session a delicate dance of diplomacy and cultural exchange. Grak-Kai-Thur shifted uncomfortably in his seat, still unused to the concept of resolving conflicts through words rather than actions. He watched as the Grappan king, once a symbol of unbridled aggression, carefully considered his next statement. "We acknowledge that our understanding of galactic interactions has been limited," the king admitted, his voice carrying a newfound humility. "This concept of war you've introduced us to is far beyond our previous experiences." Admiral Chambers nodded, his expression neutral but attentive. "Please, elaborate on your perspective. It's crucial for us to understand each other if we're to forge a lasting peace." The king glanced at Grak-Kai-Thur, who nodded encouragingly. Taking a deep breath, the king continued, "For generations we Grappans have lived by raiding. Quick strikes, decisive victories, then returning home with our spoils. We never considered the long-term consequences of our actions, nor did we imagine a response like yours." "Your war," Grak-Kai-Thur interjected, feeling compelled to add his insights. "It's not just about superior technology or tactics. It's a totality of conflict that we never conceived of. You didn't just fight our warriors, you challenged our entire way of life." A murmur of agreement ran through the Grappan delegation. Admiral Chambers leaned forward, his interest piqued. "And what have you learned from this experience?" The king and Grak-Kai-Thur exchanged glances before the commander spoke. "We've learned that true strength isn't just about individual prowess or the ability to take what we want. It's about resilience, adaptability, and the power of a unified purpose." More than that, the king added, "We've learned the cost of true war. The devastation it brings not just to the losers, but to all involved. We've seen the galaxy through your eyes, and we understand now why you fight so hard for peace." Admiral Chambers's stern expression softened slightly. "It's a harsh lesson, but one every spacefaring race must learn eventually. The galaxy is too vast, too diverse for any one species to dominate through force alone." Grak-Kai-Thur nodded solemnly. "We understand that now, but tell us, how do we move forward? Our entire society was built on raiding. What place is there for Grappans in this new galaxy you've shown us?" For the first time since the talks began, Admiral Chambers smiled. "That, Commander Grak-Thur, is the right question to ask. Your people have strength, determination, and a unique perspective. These qualities, properly directed, could be invaluable." The human admiral stood, pacing as he spoke. "We propose a partnership. Your knowledge of frontier worlds, your experience in rapid deployment and resource acquisition, these skills could be repurposed for exploration, emergency response, even humanitarian aid. The Grappen delegation stirred, murmurs of interest replacing their earlier apprehension. Moreover, Chambers continued, "We believe your experience could help us refine our own defensive strategies. Who better to advise on protecting against raids than those who once carried them out?" The Grappen king rose to his feet, standing eye to eye with Admiral Chambers. "You would trust us with such responsibilities? After all we've done." Chambers's reply was firm but not unkind. "Trust is earned, and you'll have to earn it. But we believe in second chances, in the power of societies to evolve. This is yours." As the implications of this offer sank in, Grak Thur felt a strange sensation building in his chest. It took him a moment to recognize it as hope for a future he never could have imagined before this war. The king extended a gnarled hand towards Admiral Chambers. "We accept your offer, Admiral. The Grappen Confederacy, no. The Grappen Protectorate looks forward to working alongside the human empire for the betterment of the galaxy." As Human and Grappen clasped hands, sealing their new alliance, Grak Thur couldn't help but marvel at the turn of events. They had entered this conflict as raiders, thinking they understood the nature of battle and conquest. They emerged humbled, defeated, but also enlightened. The humans had indeed taught them what war truly was, and in doing so, had shown them a path to peace they never knew existed. As Grak Thur looked out the viewport at the stars beyond, he realized that this defeat had opened up a universe of possibilities. The age of Grappen raids was over. The era of Grappen exploration, innovation, and cooperation was just beginning. And it all started because they learned, the hard way, why they should never war with humans again. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I hope you loved it. Please remember to subscribe if you did like it so you can see more videos like this. And please give us a like and a comment too. I'll see you in the next one.